Under the blinding lights of the late-night studio and with millions of eyes watching from across the country, Karoline Leavitt sat across from Stephen Colbert, a poised smile betraying the rapid beat of her heart. This wasn't just another interview, and she knew it. Something inside her said this moment would be different. As the applause settled and the host leaned in with his trademark smirk, the air shifted. "So, Karoline," Colbert began, playful and probing, "how does it feel to be one of the youngest voices shaking up the political world?" But instead of taking the bait or launching into rehearsed talking points, Karoline paused, looked out at the audience, really looked, and took a breath. "It feels like a responsibility," she said quietly. "Not to argue, but to understand. Not to win, but to listen." A hush fell over the room. Even Colbert blinked, momentarily disarmed. Cameras rolled, but the usual script had slipped through their fingers. Karoline leaned forward, her voice unwavering, but soft with conviction. "We live in a time where our disagreements are loud, but our compassion is silent. I didn't come here to prove anyone wrong. I came here to tell you a story." That wasn't part of the segment. Producers in the booth exchanged glances. Colbert opened his mouth, then closed it. And Karoline began. She told the story of a boy from her hometown, Liam, 9 years old, bright-eyed, fighting leukemia. His family was drowning in medical bills. They had no connections, no spotlight, no voice. And one cold winter morning, Karoline had stumbled upon a GoFundMe page that had barely reached $300 after a month. "I kept thinking," she said, "if this was my brother, my son, my family, would anyone care?" The audience was still. "So I posted it. Just shared it. Didn't ask for much." She smiled gently. And then something amazing happened. Strangers gave. People from both sides of the aisle. No debates, no hashtags, just help. Because before we are anything else, Republicans, Democrats, hosts, guests, we are people. Colbert sat back, his expression unreadable. Karoline pressed on. She talked about how the fundraiser went viral. How the community rallied. How people who disagreed on nearly everything came together for one boy. "Liam's in remission now," she said, her eyes wet. Because people chose compassion over conflict. Just for a moment. The audience didn't clap. They didn't cheer. They sat silent, reverent, like witnesses to something raw and real. Colbert, famously quick with wit and sarcasm, said nothing for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. "That's not the segment I planned for," he said. A soft laugh rippled through the crowd. "But maybe it's the one we needed." And just like that, the conversation shifted. They didn't argue. They shared. About brokenness and healing. About fears for the future and hopes that still flickered. They talked like people, not pundits. After the show aired, something remarkable unfolded. Not trending hashtags, but heartfelt letters. Emails. Messages from viewers who hadn't spoken to their siblings in years. From veterans and teachers. From single mothers and college students. "I needed to hear that," one wrote. "I forgot that we can still be kind." And Karoline, once seen as just another divisive figure in a polarized world, became a symbol of something deeper, the quiet power of empathy. Not the dramatic takedown the headline promised, but a gentle dismantling of cynicism. Weeks later, Karoline returned to visit Liam's family. He was running through the backyard, bald but smiling, free for now. His mother hugged her tightly and whispered, "You didn't just save him. You reminded us that there's still good out there." And as Karoline looked around, the swing set, the neighbors bringing over pie, the sound of a dog barking somewhere nearby. She thought back to that night in the studio, to the silence that had filled the room. Not awkward. Not uncomfortable. Just, honest. The silence that falls when something true is said. The silence that comes when hearts open. That night, Karoline hadn't destroyed anyone. She had done something far more radical, she had connected. And in a world that thrived on division, that was the most powerful act of all. In the end, what the world remembered wasn't the clash, but the compassion. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of understanding. And across living rooms, across party lines, across hearts long calloused by noise and blame, something soft began to bloom again: hope. Moral of the story. True strength isn't in defeating others, but in connecting with them. Compassion has the quiet power to disarm division, heal wounds, and remind us of our shared humanity. In a world loud with conflict, sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that chooses kindness.